He slid the glossy brochure across my kitchen table, the one with the smiling silver-haired couple playing chess in a sun-drenched room. "It's for the best, Mom," my son, David, said, not meeting my eyes. "You'll be with people your own age. You'll have activities. Constant care." The word hung in the air between us, toxic and final. Care. He made it sound like a privilege, but I knew it for what it was, a disposal. He thought I was a burden. He was about to learn the true meaning of the word. "Hello, my darlings, and welcome to my corner of the world. I'm Ash, and if you've ever felt invisible, ever been cast aside by those who were supposed to cherish you, then you understand the quiet fire that burns in my heart. This is a story about the price of betrayal, and the unique power a mother holds, the power to build up, and the power to dismantle. If you know the sting of a family's cruelty, if you believe in the strength that comes with age, then settle in, and don't forget to subscribe and share your own stories in the comments below. This is the story of how my son sent me to a nursing home, and how I gave him a burden he could never have imagined. The brochure was for Sunset Gardens. The name alone was a promise of an ending. David's fingers, which had once been so small and trusting in mine, now drummed a nervous rhythm on my oak table, the same table where I'd fed him 1,000 meals, helped him with his homework, bandaged his scraped knees. "David," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "I am 78. I have arthritis in my hands and my memory is not what it was, but I am not incompetent. I can cook for myself. I pay my own bills. This is my home." "This house is too much for you, Mom," he corrected, his tone that infuriating blend of condescension and impatience he'd perfected since his tech company went public. "The stairs are a hazard. What if you fall? What if you leave the stove on? I can't be worrying about you every second of the day. I have a company to run, a family to provide for. A family to provide for." The words were a scalpel. I looked at my son, this stranger in a $5,000 suit, and saw the ghost of the boy who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms. That boy was gone, replaced by a man who saw emotions as liabilities and his mother as a problem to be solved. "Jennifer agrees with me," he added, invoking his wife, a woman whose affection for me had always been as thin as the china she insisted on using for Thanksgiving. "It's for your own good." The fight went out of me then, not in a dramatic rush, but in a slow, cold leak. I saw the unyielding set of his jaw, the cold practicality in his eyes. He had made up his mind. To him, I was already gone. So, I went. Sunset Gardens was a monument to beige. Beige walls, beige carpets, beige food. It smelled of antiseptic and boiled vegetables, a scent designed to sanitize not just surfaces, but souls. My room was small, with a single window overlooking a manicured courtyard I had no desire to walk in. They took my things, my favorite teapot, my books, the framed photos of David as a boy, and replaced them with safe, institutional alternatives. I was stripped of my history, my identity reduced to a patient wristband. David visited once a week, for exactly 20 minutes. He'd sit in an uncomfortable chair by my bed, his phone never far from his hand, and give me a sanitized update on his life. "The company's good. The kids are fine." He'd ask the nurses about my adjustment as if I weren't in the room. I answered his questions with quiet monosyllables, my spirit seeming to shrink under the fluorescent lights. I let him see what he wanted to see, a defeated old woman, fading gracefully into the backdrop. But inside, the cold, hard core of me was crystallizing. He had thrown me away. My own child. The love I had for him, a love that had been the central axis of my life, began to curdle into something else, something dark and patient. The key to my revenge was Arthur. My husband, a quiet, brilliant man who had died 10 years earlier. David had always been dismissive of his father's life's work, theoretical physics. Impractical, he'd call it. No real-world application. While David was building his empire in sleek Silicon Valley offices, Arthur had been building something else in his cluttered university lab and in the meticulous files on his home computer. Arthur had dedicated his life to a single, complex problem, a set of algorithms related to quantum-level data compression. He'd never finished it. He told me, once, lying in a hospital bed not unlike the one I now occupied, Eleanor, the world isn't ready for it. It would break modern encryption. It would make every digital secret vulnerable. He'd made me promise to keep his research safe, to only hand it over to someone who would use it for good, not for profit. I had kept that promise. The data was stored on a heavily encrypted private server, the access codes known only to me, buried in a seemingly innocuous file among my personal documents. David, in his haste to pack me away, had put my house on the market, but he'd put all my personal effects, my computers, my files, my boxes of photos, into a storage unit. He'd given me the key, a small, metallic taunt. In case you want to sort through any of it, he'd said, not meaning it. One afternoon, during approved recreational time, I asked to use the communal computer. The staff was surprised. Most residents used it for solitaire or to video call grandchildren. I sat down, my arthritic fingers hovering over the keys. I accessed a remote server. I opened a single file. And I began to type. I wasn't writing a memoir. I wasn't sending a desperate email. I was writing a program. A simple, elegant, and utterly malicious piece of code. Using the foundational principles of Arthur's work, I created a digital skeleton key. It was a worm, designed to target one specific system, the central server of David's company, Apex Dynamics. My plan was not to destroy his company. That would be too quick, too impersonal. My plan was to become a burden. A permanent, inescapable, and expensive one. The worm did one thing, and one thing only: it introduced a minute, almost undetectable computational lag into the company's primary financial transaction database. It was the digital equivalent of a single grain of sand in a perfectly tuned engine. At first, it would be nothing. A half-second delay in processing a payment. A momentary hiccup in a stock trade. But with every transaction, the sand would multiply. The lag would grow, compound, slowly gumming up the works of his multi-billion-dollar machine. I uploaded the worm and set a timer. It would activate in 1 week. Then I cleared the browser history and went back to my bingo game, a faint, unreadable smile on my face. The first sign of trouble was a terse phone call. David sounded harried. Some system issues at work, Mom. Can't make it this Sunday. Of course, dear, I said softly. Don't you worry about me. The next week, he didn't call at all. I followed the news on the communal television. Apex Dynamics was experiencing technical difficulties. Stock prices were dipping slightly. Analysts were puzzled. The company's famously robust systems were slowing down. Customer complaints were rising. A month later, he visited. He looked terrible. Shadows under his eyes, his suit rumpled. He didn't even pretend to sit down. It's a nightmare, he muttered, almost to himself. We can't find the source. It's like the entire system is aging. Slowing down. We've hired 3 different consulting firms. They're billing me a fortune and none of them can fix it. It's costing us millions. Oh, that sounds dreadful, I said, my voice full of maternal concern. It must be a terrible burden. You have no idea, he snapped, running a hand through his hair. But I did. I had a very good idea. The crisis deepened. The glitch, as the media now called it, became a full-blown scandal. Apex's reputation for reliability was shattered. Major clients began to leave. The board was in an uproar. David was working 20-hour days, his own life crumbling under the strain. Jennifer called me, her voice shrill with panic. He's never home. The kids are asking for him. We're losing money, Eleanor. I offered soothing, useless platitudes. Inside, I felt nothing but a cold, still satisfaction. The final act came 6 months after my arrival at Sunset Gardens. David came to see me, but this was different. He was broken. The arrogant CEO was gone, replaced by a desperate, middle-aged man on the brink of ruin. He collapsed into the chair, his head in his hands. "They're forcing me out," he whispered, his voice ragged. "The board. They're voting next week. I'm going to lose everything, Mom. The company, the house, everything I built." I waited, letting the silence stretch. Then I spoke, my voice no longer that of a frail old woman, but of Eleanor, the woman who had loved and nurtured a genius, the woman who had kept his most dangerous secret. "Perhaps I can help, David." He looked up, his eyes red-rimmed and confused. "You? How? You remember your father's work? The research you always called a waste of time?" He frowned, impatient. "What does that have to do with anything?" "Everything," I said calmly. "The problem your company is facing, this progressive systemic decay, it mirrors a theoretical flaw in modern processing architecture that your father identified decades ago. He even devised a solution. A set of algorithms." David stared at me, comprehension dawning slowly, then with horrifying speed. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that the burden you're carrying, this terrible, expensive, company-killing burden. I gave it to you." I leaned forward, my gaze locking with his. "You sent me here because you said I was a burden. So I decided to show you what a real burden looks like. It's not an old woman who needs a little help. It's a flaw in the very foundation of everything you've built, a flaw only I can fix." The color drained from his face. He looked at me as if seeing me for the first time, not as his mother, but as a force. An equal. An adversary. You did this?" "I am your mother," I said, my voice dropping to a whisper. "I know your heart, David. And I know the system your company runs on, because I helped build the key that can break it. And the key that can fix it." I let that hang in the beige, sterile air. "Now," I continued, "here are my terms. You will take me home. Today. You will cancel the sale of my house. You will return every single one of my possessions. You will visit me, not out of obligation, but because you want to. And you will never, ever speak to me again with anything less than the respect I deserve." He was trembling, a mixture of fury, awe, and utter defeat. "And the solution?" "That," I said, settling back against my pillows, "will be a separate negotiation. We can discuss my consulting fees once I'm home and settled. I assure you, they will be substantial. After all, saving a multi-billion-dollar company doesn't come cheap. You of all people should understand that." The look on his face was worth every lonely moment in that beige room. It was the look of a man who had finally, truly, met his match. He had tried to discard me, but he had only succeeded in unleashing me. He had thought a nursing home was a prison. He now realized it had been my command center. And his burden had only just begun. The weight of a family's betrayal is a heavy one, my darlings, but never forget the strength you carry within you. Age does not make us weak, it gives us perspective and a unique kind of power. My story isn't over yet, and I have a feeling the negotiations with my son are just beginning. If you believe in the quiet strength of a woman wronged, if you relish seeing the scales of justice balanced, then please, show this channel some love. Subscribe for more stories of resilience and retribution, and let me know in the comments what you would have done in my shoes. Until next time.